All right. Let's see if I can do a better job on this pop-up event than I did on the last one with Selenium. So I was messing with Python and Pandoc today, and I thought maybe I'd share something I've been doing, or not something I've been doing, but it's kind of a branch off of something I'm doing, a very, very simple example of what I've been doing. But yeah, let's go. So what's needed for this would be Python, and I'm using 2.7, and Pandoc, which oh, I don't like the webcam glare in my face. All right. There's actually a Python package that you can use to install Pandoc rather than installing it on your system the normal way. However, this is a good page to go to if you want to use the command line tool for Pandoc and see all the options you have. It's basically a conversion tool. You can convert tons of documents. Let's see, I thought there was a... Yeah, so all different types of document types can be converted into other document types. I'm going to reply to the chat. In the chat, we're talking about using 3.6. I'm not sure if this will work the same for 3.6. I don't dive into that version too often of Python, but we'll see. But all you need to do is, of course, have Python installed, and then, where is it? Do pip install Pandoc, which I should already have it, or PyPandoc, that is. It's probably just going to tell me that I've already got it. Yep. So that's all we need, and I do believe this actually installs the, I think you can still use Pandoc from the command line with this. I'm not sure, and I can't test it because I actually have Pandoc installed also, so if somebody else wants to check that, they can. So what I thought I'd do is a quick look at how to use Pandoc with Python. Ignore the train if you can hear it in the background. So what we need to do is create a Python file. And I'm going to call it deploy.py, and you'll see why here later. And we need to throw in the shebang so that we can execute it. And we're going to need to import two tools, or libraries, or however you want to word that. This is the thing that I like a lot about Python, is how easy it is to, I mean, it's kind of lightweight unless you don't want it to be, and how easy it is to import tools, install third-party tools and things like that. We're going to import the OS, and we're going to import PyPandoc. So that's all we need right there to get started. Now I'm looking at my full example on another screen here, and I want to make sure I don't miss any steps. So what I want to do is create a folder, and I'm going to call it source. And in there, I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to call it index.md for markdown. Oops. So in here, we'll just do something real simple. We'll just make a heading. If you're familiar with Markdown, and then just some text. So save that. And let's go ahead and let's just do an example of what Pandoc can do by running Pandoc. Spell it right. .convert file. And actually we're going to save the result into a variable. And this is going to take 2 parameters. One will be the location of the file, which would be source/index.md. And then we want to tell it what kind of output we want. And we want it to be HTML. So we're going to take what's in here and convert it into HTML. And for demo purposes, we're just going to print that result to the screen. Save that. Pop over here and execute it. There you go. You can see the HTML that it created. So go ahead and, well, we'll keep, let's see. Let's go ahead and comment this out. We'll use it later. Now what I want to do is actually pull the documents from the source folder. So we're going to do a for loop. I'm going to say for file in. We're going to use the OS library, OS list dir, and that just takes the name of the directory, which is going to be source. And for those not familiar with Python, the alignment of everything in here is very important. Unlike with like PHP and JavaScript, your code can be a big disaster. As long as it's closed by semicolons and brackets, then it knows what's going on. Python's a little more picky about that. So we need to indent here because this is the for loop. And what we want to do is we are going to spit out the file name. So print file. Now let's run over here, run our script. So it found index.markdown. Let's go ahead and create a couple more in the source directory. I'm just going to call this about markdown. Give it a title. Save that. And go ahead and duplicate this and call it, say, support. All right, so now we've got 3 pages in the source directory. When we run the script, you can see it found all 3. So now we know we've got the file name. We want to, let's go ahead and create a variable. We'll just call this source file equals, and we'll concatenate the source directory. And actually, if we wanted to be a little better about this, create a variable up here, source dir, source. And just go ahead and use this where appropriate. And then to concatenate in Python, you use the plus. And we're going to just say We're going to need the directory separator though. So there, and then source, or sorry, file. Let's go ahead and remove this print, put it down here, change that to source file, save that, run our script. So now we have the full path to our file. Now let's go ahead and use the Pandoc convert. And this time, we're not going to save the result in a variable. We're going to output it. So we're going to add a third parameter here. And we're going to call this is going to be output file equals. And then the file name is going to go in here. But let's go ahead and create this file name dynamically. Let's create another variable called output file, and let's go ahead and make another directory up here. Result directory. Call that results. Let's go ahead and create that directory. Result directory plus directory separator plus file. But then we're going to run this method here to find and replace. We're going to replace .md from the file name with .html. So let's go ahead and comment that out really quick. Copy this and change this to output file. Save that, run our script. There you go. So you see where the result's going to go, and it's going to be properly named an HTML file. And uncomment this out. Instead of the quotes here for a string, we're just going to send it the output file name. And let's go ahead and save that. Run our script. Open up our results. And there you go. We have some HTML pages. Something's goofy though. Oh, we never fixed this here. So let's correct this. Let's just take out that and the file name and say source. Source directory plus for concatenate plus for concatenate source file. All right, let's try that again. And what did I do? Source file. Oh, ha. We don't need the source directory because that's already part of that. Okay. Now let's go where we should have different. Cool. So we have different file names. And if I were to go to the browser here, there you go. So we have HTML pages. Nothing too fancy, but they're there. Let's get a little more fancy. Go ahead and comment this out. We don't need that right now. And let's see. Let's make a template. So let's make a new directory. And we'll call this static. Actually, let's just call it template. It's templates. And I'm going to create a couple new files in here. One will be header.html. One will be navigation.html, and one will be footer.html. And let's just put some gibberish in here. This is the header. This is the navigation. And this is the footer. So what can we do with this? We're going to need to get the contents of those files, those template files. So let's do that first. Actually, let's make a new variable for the template directory. There you go. So we're going to open these. Let's create a variable called fp for file pointer, and we're going to run open, and we're going to open template directory separator, header.html. Alright. And let's go ahead and just copy this a couple of times. Actually, we're missing part of it. We want to open for read. Change this to navigation. Footer. All right, so we've got it open. Now we want to read it and get the contents. So we're going to say header equals fp for file pointer, read, and then we'll close, fp close. And let's go ahead and copy this and paste it below. Change this to navigation and footer. So now we have the contents of each one of those files ready for us down here in the loop. And what this is going to produce is, it's going to be fairly simple, but and it could be usable, but it's also just, it's kind of a demonstration and an exploration to some of the things you can do with Python with simple utilities that are already out there like Pandoc. And I mean, basically we're making it so we can write simple markdown pages and create a simple HTML site out of it. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and convert the file first, and then we will open it. We'll do file pointer. Actually, let's just copy this. And we will change this to output file. And we're going to change this to a R plus because we want to read and write. We get the file pointer. Let's call this the source. And we're going to do file pointer seek 0 to get to the beginning of the document. Then let's create our page. Say page equals header, concatenate navigation, concatenate source, which is the contents, and footer. So now we've got all that smashed into one. It's all been converted to HTML, and it's all now in one document or one giant string at this point. Let's call on our file pointer again to write. And this is going to write the contents of the page variable to the point in the file, which would be the 0 at the beginning of the file. And save that. And let's give it a whirl. So we didn't get any output. That's because we hit our print calls there. Let's see what our results look like. There you go. Looks like the stuff landed where we wanted it to land. Pop over to the browser. All right, cool. So now let's put some meat in there. The header, now I'm going to do some copying and pasting. I prepared this earlier. I wanted to play with Bootstrap 4 just a little bit. So I grabbed this kind of boilerplate start to the page here. So we've got the whole start of the HTML document, the whole head, and the start of the body. I'm going to save that. And I've just got everything CDN'd to the new Bootstrap. And let's go to the navigation. Now what I wanted to do in here was just create some divs. This one is going to be our container. Do fluid so it's full screen. This will be a row. Got a message that we're dropping frames, so hopefully didn't lose anybody. This one's going to be a column, and with Bootstrap 4 you don't necessarily have to give the column size, you're just saying it's a column. And I'm going to give this one a column size, column 10. So what will happen here with Bootstrap 4 is kind of convenient. It will automatically adjust this column to fit the extra 2. So say I wanted to change this to 8, this will automatically take up 4 columns, 4 spaces. So I'm going to stick with 10. And let's go ahead, I'm going to copy and paste this part rather than typing it out. This is just a simple navigation. We're going to throw in the right or the left column here. With some links to go to the home page, about us, support. And then this part here is going to be the ending. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and make some comments because I'm going to move these. I'm going to cut these out and put them in the footer. So we've got that. Then just to be fancy, I'm going to throw in a fixed bottom footer from Bootstrap 4, and then we'll close the body. All right, save that. So now we've got our pieces, and we've already seen that they should plop in there where we want them. So I can run deploy again. Over to our page. There you go. We have a simple website that is built with Markdown. So like we could go in and you know, throw some lorem ipsum in here. Which I already had prepared. And maybe some on the home page. And go ahead and redeploy. There you go. So that's really all I had. I thought this was a kind of a quick dive into Python and Pandoc. With a little bit of Bootstrap 4 in there. But I mean, you've basically created not a very dynamic website, but quick. I mean, you need to throw up a little help page or something, or a quick, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can take this and you could rewrite this to actually deploy it. You could push this out to a server. So this could be your update. You could throw something in here, or throw even a shell script in, you know, that gets triggered, that spits all these files out to a place on or replaces what's on the server. Yeah, you're right. You could use it. I'm reading the chat. You could use it for documentation. And actually, this is the concept of this is coming from something bigger that I've been working on, using that Sphinx documentation tool, which is doing essentially the same kind of thing, only it's using restructured text instead of Markdown. But it's a little bit crazier because you can interlink between things, create table of contents, things like that, and Sphinx chews all that up and knows how to link everything together, link documents together. So that's pretty cool. This is like a real simple version of that. But I mean, you could totally expand it. I mean, you could write something that as it finds all the files in the source, builds the navigation dynamically. So every time you add a new file, you know, that file automatically gets added over here when you run the deploy script. Something like that. But I really wanted to show just how simple Python is. I know that a lot of people that have watched my videos, I've been a real big PHP person, and I still am. But I don't know that I could have done this necessarily this quickly with PHP. All the tools were already there. I mean, installing Pandoc was a matter of one line in the command line, and boom, I've got it. And 36 lines later, we have a simple little website. And I don't know if you're familiar, if you've ever seen the simple server tool that comes with Python. This is kind of neat. See if I can look up the syntax for it. So let's see. This command here will create a simple web server. I have one running, but let me turn mine off. So see, this won't work anymore. However, I can run this. I'm going to change the port. Copy this, and this is going to run in whatever directory I'm in, so I could actually cd into, is it results, and run this command, and I should have a server running now. So if I go to localhost 5757, there's my stuff. The amount of stuff you can do with the simple HTTP server, I am not sure. I mean, it's very light. I know you can run JavaScript and everything because that's client side. I mean, you could create a pretty interesting little tool and deploy it and make it available. I don't know, pretty cool stuff. So I'm gonna add this to the README also when I commit the code here. Main reason I changed 800 is although since I turned my server off, it probably wouldn't mess with it, but I didn't want to mess with the port. That's the port you're on. However, I think if I kill that and run it like this, I'm not entirely sure if I even need the port. Yeah, I do. Anyway, so I'm going to add that in there. If you wanted to mess with this and not get into something gigantic like Sphinx, I definitely recommend restructured text. You can do some pretty neat stuff with that. It's a little more flexible than Markdown. Markdown's great for really, really quick stuff and simple stuff, but restructured text gives you a little more options. However, what is really good with Markdown, though, is that natively, sometimes with some issue, but you can embed HTML in a Markdown file sometimes, and that works out kind of nice. But you can also do the same with restructured text. You just have to create what's called like a raw block to put the text in there, the HTML in there. Oh, so you did have to install Pandoc manually. I assumed it worked just because but I had already installed Pandoc, so PyPandoc must be kind of a wrapper, a simple wrapper for Pandoc already being installed. I thought. Let's see, uses Pandoc, so it needs to be available. This is what I read. All right. So with pip, you don't actually get Pandoc also. So that's good to note. I'll put that in the README on here when I put it up. But the restructured text I'm talking about, you can find a decent explanation on the Sphinx site. The actual restructured text documentation was written for people that don't like looking at things that are pretty. Makes my eyes bleed when I have to actually go into their documentation. But they have a nice little primer here that shows you some of the same syntax as Markdown, but a little bit different. And it's parsed with Python, so it kind of follows some of the Python rules with the tabbing and everything like that and spacing. When we show you the actual restructured text, yeah, this makes my eyes bleed. you can navigate through here, good luck. But this kills me. They use, let's see, Sphinx doesn't use Pandoc. They use something called DocUtils, which I've never used on its own, so I can't speak much to that. But you can do restructured text with yeah, it looks. I think it even looks pre-90s. I think this might have been 80s looking. But that's what you get from a good developer, is poor design. Let's see. But I am going to do, as I mentioned in the last video, I think, I want to do a video on Sphinx also, because it's pretty neat. Especially for documenting code, because you can document, let's see, because it's meant for documenting Python mostly, and code in general. And then there are self-documenting tools too that I haven't looked into that much, where it'll actually scan your code and create the pages for you. Which I believe, though, that means you need to be formatting your code properly and having the proper comments so that it knows what to chew up, how to parse it. But I haven't dove much into that. However, if you're going to do it by hand, I'm trying to find, let's see, Sphinx domains. Sphinx domains. Not to be confused with domain names. This is more like this project or this file is going to be within the PHP domain or the Python domain, which basically makes these this markup, these directives here, work kind of like for Python or PHP, whichever one you define. So you can kind of write you write things like this, like if you're defining a class. And then you can define your attributes. And give it a definition. Then you can go down and then add methods. Put the parameters in there. And even if it's optional, you can do that. And you can define, I believe it's like property or something to define what these are. And then you can also tell it what it returns. You know, false or array, you know, something like that. So it's worth looking into. It's real quick. I've gone off topic here, but I was actually done with my topic. So it's actually really quick to deploy. I actually had a test all ready to go, I think, for the last video. Yep. If you run over to docs, you'll need to actually install Sphinx, which I think it's just pip install Sphinx. Spell it right. Did a whole bunch of wrong there. Pip install Sphinx. Yeah, so I've already got it installed, which gives me this quick start deal. Which this guy here. I want to see the parameters. Quick start. There it is. Sphinx. Now there's a little wizard to help you too, but I prefer to just skip that by hitting the quiet flag. I'm going to tell it to go into directory called test2. Make it quiet. And let's see, it requires P, A, and V. So P is the project name. Oh, my docs. A is the author, Alan. And what was the other one? Version 0.1. And this should build out an entire Sphinx project in the test2 directory. Possibly slowly. There we go. All right, so now if I go into test2, all right, got all the files there, and there's just, pull up in the editor. So there's a restructured text file there. And if I hit make HTML, it is going to build the sample stuff that it has in here. I'm going to turn on my web server again here really quick. Although you could use a Python one also. And go in, let's see it's done. Go into the build folder, go into HTML, and there's my documentation. There's definitely some better themes out there, which I'll get into when I'm actually doing a video on this. But, you know, if I wanted to add some stuff, save that, run make HTML, and refresh some stuff here. And say I want to create a page, new file. Title. It requires a title or it'll throw up a bunch of crap. It'll yell at you. And if I want to include this in the table of contents, just write some page. Not even take out the restructured text extension. I'm going to do what's called a clean build, which is going to wipe out my build directory so we can do a fresh clean. Is Python the pioneer of computer science because it's simplicity? I don't know. That's probably a good part of it. It's kind of like there is a lot. It's not just its simplicity, but its flexibility. I mean, you could build a website with Python if you wanted to. I haven't. Well, not much more than what we just did. I don't know about building a full-on website. There's better options for that. But there's a lot of things that you can do that would be done on the server end, usually with like old school shell scripts or something. And you can do way more with Python. So you can write a bunch of utilities, basically what we just wrote a minute ago, the deploy script, quick utilities like that. It's the, let's see, the library of things that are available, third-party additions. There's just tons of stuff. Almost anything you can think of a lot of times has already been created, and it's as simple as running pip install whatever it is. A video I want to get into after this, because this was kind of a lead into something else I wanted to go into, and that was I want to show how you can not only do cool stuff with Google Docs, Google Drive, but how you can take things from Google Drive and then manipulate it with Python. So you can suck some files down using the Python API and convert them. So we could actually do what we're doing here. And the other thing we were doing, not the Sphinx thing, take some Google Docs, suck them down, convert them to HTML or what have you, and create the same process. So not only it's even simpler than writing Markdown. You're just using a text editor, word processing, cloud-based word processing to write out your page, and then it will do all the conversion for you. It's actually not very hard, and it's pretty cool. So I think the next part of this series, if you will, would be me diving into that a little bit. That's pretty cool. Let's take a look at what I just did here. I never rebuilt. So make HTML. You're right. Yeah, you can pretty much do everything with Python. I think it's kind of a bridge between low-level programming. I'm reading the chat here. It's kind of a bridge between low and high-level programming in a sense. Low-level programmers, I think, are a lot more comfortable with Python because it's more familiar. And I think that's a lot of times the issue, the big gap between the low-level guys and the higher-level guys who are doing, web development with things like PHP and stuff and JavaScript, a bunch of scripting. I think that's the separation there. We have a hard time understanding that low-level stuff, and they have a hard time wrapping their brain around the 5 different technologies it takes to build a web page now. And that seems outrageous, I think, to some of the low-level guys. Whereas to us, I think it's awesome because we have all these tools to do everything we want to do the way we want to do it, and it's already built for us, and we can expand on it. We're not, high level doesn't necessarily mean cheating. We appreciate what was done on the low level end to create the high level language, and then we're going to expand on that. Take advantage of what was already built for us and expand on that. But see, refresh. So here's now there's a link to some page, and there's our some page. I'm going to move this into our new one here. Name that to Sphinx sample. And I think that wraps it up. This is another one of those things that just had a itch to do something. And hopefully it's a little more prepared than the Selenium video. I did take a little more time on this one. But think about all the things we just talked about here, and then think on how I can take this to the next level using the Google API, like I had mentioned. And I think we'll do something with the Google API and Python, sucking things down and converting them, similar to what we just did here, and then expand on that, and then go on the Drive side and write some Google script to manipulate what's going on over in the Drive within the documents, and let these tools work together a little bit. Can do some pretty cool stuff. So I'm gonna wrap all this up. I'm gonna tidy up what we've done here and then push that out to GitHub for everybody. And that's about it. I thank everybody for showing up, and I'm gonna shut this thing down.